welcome to the Total Film Critic Podcast. We're going to start off this edition a little differently. This is Thad's thing, but we have a little special treat for you. We have the original script from the Nutty Professor, the Jerry Lewis classic, and we have the Total Film Critic Podcast players, and they're going to do a scene from the movie The Nutty Professor, where Buddy Love surprises Stella Purdy in Professor Kelp's classroom as she's taking a test. So Stella is now busy erasing a mistake or two, taking her test, and we hear a voice right over her. Take it, Total Film Critic Podcast players.
Hey, what are you doing here?
Just thought I'd see you, little land of Lennon.
By the way, what in the devil got you last night anyway? You scared me half to death. I thought you saw a ghost or something.
Well, that's why I'm here, baby. I can't explain right now, but if you'll meet me at the pit tonight, I can talk better there. What do you say?
Well, I don't know. You're pretty weird, you know. And I don't want to...
10 o'clock, all right?
That's perfect.
It must have been pretty rough on you having to go a whole day without seeing me. See ya like later, baby. Sorry I interrupted your study period, but don't worry about it, beautiful. Science will do very well without you, but man needs you the most. This man.
And scene. Thank you. Well done. Give yourselves a round of applause.
That was the worst Buddy Love impression I've ever done. Probably the worst.
Bad Stella Purdy impersonation.
That was great. Thank y'all for indulging me. We're going to do more stuff like this down the road. I originally wanted to do a scene
heads up, though.
Well, I wanted to originally do a scene from The King of Comedy, but that was so last minute that we can't find the script for that. But I just thought a scene between Rupert Pupkin and the Dying Lad character in The King of Comedy would have been a good read. But that was fun.
I would be okay to do that. I need to get into the Buddy Love character more.
Well, this is not you, but so you did a very good job. I mean, hell, you just in a short film you played a murderer, and in another film you played an abusive husband. You would think Buddy Love would be lighting it up a little bit, right?
That is true.
Okay, unless they're going to make a sequel where Buddy Love is an abusive husband who's also a prisoner. I don't know, but how do they make that work? Okay, this is your podcast, so go ahead and officially introduce it, Thad.
Okay, well, movie lovers, we're back here again, and we got Audi, Cat, and we're going to be talking about two films. The first one is The Naked Prey from 1965 and The Odd Couple from 1968. So first, we're going to go over Naked Prey. This was my pick. I remember seeing this movie when I was probably 10, 11, super young. My grandpa used to record a ton of movies on VHS tapes, and he would always recommend these movies, and usually they were high-rated films.
So basically, it just seems like your family just loved to traumatize you when you were a child.
My grandpa, I would say. But I remember watching the movie, and I didn't remember the title. I didn't remember much about the film, but I just remember it was an escape movie chase through the jungles of Africa. And years later, I found it. But the premise of the movie basically is he doesn't really have a name in the film, but the man has a safari, and they're going through Africa. The owner of the safari, he doesn't give gifts to the tribesmen of that land while they're passing through, and that angers them, and so they capture the safari. Everybody is killed except for the main character, and so they do a sport game with him where they shoot an arrow out and they make him run past the arrow, and then they start to chase him, and he has to try to survive and try to get away.
Basically, this movie is the original First Blood. It's basically a one-man army who pretty much takes out the whole African, village. And so, yeah, his goal is to make it to what is it at the end?
It's like a fort, I think.
Okay. So and yeah, so they strip him, and but he knows how to live off the fat of the land, and a lot of violence in this movie. Uh, the opening towards the beginning of the movie where they're killing the elephants and the rhinoceros, that was weird because you
Oh,
see all the Africans making use of the internal organs of the animals to eat, and you see one literally walk inside of it and come walk out with all this gobs of flesh.
you could say very gutsy for its time. Actually, since you brought up the elephant thing, I listened to an interview that Cornel Wilde, the director, he did at UCLA, and one of the students asked him what about the elephant scene, and actually, apparently those are real elephants that were shot because in Africa, I guess they have a reserve of elephants, and if they break out, there's no way to stop them. So when he was shooting the picture, he contacted the kind of the I'd say like probably the game uh, or animal game reservation or whatever, and
Animal control. No.
yeah, and he was like, hey, if you have this happen, inform us. And so like he was shooting some other scenes, I guess, and they told him that they had a breakout, so they quickly went over, got those shots of the elephants, and then just cut them, did the cuts of the gunfire later in the movie.
Yeah, yeah, I believe that.
But
Yeah,
nowadays you'd get like I probably PETA be like, oh my, but yeah, back then.
yeah. Someone just conveniently left the latch loose, and I'll be damned, the animals got out. What a stroke of luck. So yeah, you do know that that was like a total fucking lie, right? Okay, so but hey, they had a schedule to maintain. But I gotta tell you, when y'all told me that he was 53 years old, he was in excellent shape for that film. So you could tell he really worked out to prepare for that role.
And
Well,
was
he was always like in good shape, I would say. From like you always see him with his shirt off in other films. Someone was like, "Did he have it in his film contract to have his shirt off?" But like he got into even more of a like better shape, I would say.
Well, it's a lots of flesh throughout the film. I texted both of y'all yesterday. I said, typically I don't like my gay porn with this much violence, but at least there was a story.
So you
Uh,
actually liked the film?
well, it was what I was expected. It was I don't know why you keep sending me all these mindfuck films, but I watched it for you, and but it does remind me of a film that I saw in elementary school, where a guy he's an ordinary guy, he's an ordinary professional type, but for sport he went hunting into some desolate part of the United States, and I think he gets lost and he gets taken in by some old guy who lives out in the woods or whatever, and the guy who lives in the woods is offended that this guy just sees killing animals as just something to do, not something to live off of or feed your family. That offends him. So the guy who lives in the woods decides to hunt that guy who was a hunter. And it's very, very similar. So that guy was basically having to escape to safety because the hunter became the hunted. So to me, that was a smaller scale of what we saw because we had, in this case, a whole bunch of Africans. Um, it was just one particular tribe that was after him. The guy basically outwits a lot of them. He's able to kill a lot of them along the way, and it's exhausting um, fight for his life.
And the interesting thing is the main character, he's trying to survive, but he has great respect for the customs of the land. Like when the other guy, doesn't want to give them gifts, he says, hey, this is their land, give them some gifts, you're going to regret it. And then, there's a scene in the movie where he rescues one of the tribe girls from the slaveholders. And so you see his character, he does care, he does show respect for the customs, which is probably very rare for the time it was set in. Most people, they didn't care. They just kind of took what they wanted. And even when they're hunting the elephants, he has a discussion with the guy saying, well, you just shot elephants that didn't even have any ivory. Like I only shot ones that had ivory, so at least he has a conscience.
Yeah. Yeah. You get a sense of that throughout the film, that there is a sense of dignity and honor in their bloody sports. How did this movie do in the box office, and what was the critical response to this movie when it came out?
It did pretty well at the box office. Some of the critics thought it was too bloody at the time.
I
For
think
sure.
Roger Ebert gave it like two stars or whatever, saying that you couldn't ever outrun any African tribes. Like it's a make believe story.
So like I thought, like he does get a head start, and and then he does wait, and then he kills the one guy, like the second that came after him, and the first guy who came after him. Like he almost is outran, but he was just
His character, now that's one thing I noticed in the movie immediately. His character was never really like booking it. He was almost like lightly jogging. That was like the one flaw, and how I was like, he doesn't seem to be terribly terrified. That's the only quirk that I had. But otherwise, it was a convincing situation.
Well, that one part where the one guy, there is one part where like he's really out of breath, though, I would say.
Towards the end, he gets really exhausted.
No, it was toward the beginning, where that other guy collapses. One of the tribe that's after him collapses, and he's like foaming at the mouth or whatever. But like, yeah, and that's the only part I think that he was like really booking it. And also, I would say there's that one part where he sets the whole land on fire. I would be like, I don't think this would work today. People would be like, arson.
I mean, this movie, during
the director Cornel, he worked out a deal with the African Fire Department. Hey, now we don't want to set a fire, but the next time there is a fire, call us and we'll get our crew out there, and then we'll shoot it.
Well, I looked up some of the. I mean, they over a period of like 40 days they shot this movie, and so Cornell, he had a lot of trouble making this movie. I heard that well, I mean, we're all Jerry Lewis fans, so Jerry Lewis made the video assist. So when you're out in Africa, they didn't have the ability to have video assist or any of that stuff, so they would shoot like 2 weeks worth of footage, and they were about 100 miles from the nearest town, and so they shot all this footage, and then after about 2 or 3 weeks they would go to a broken down little theater and review the dailies to see how it was looking. So they were kind of doing most of the stuff like without a lot of the equipment that you get down there.
Wow.
And we just talked about the spear scene where he first is running. Apparently he had one translator on the film. So the first guy who's running after him with the spear, he was like, hey, when you get closer to me, don't throw the spear. I'm going to do a cut, and then, we're going to switch. And so he was, running, doing the lightly jogging, and the guy misheard him or misinterpreted, and he throws the spear. And so when the spear goes by him in the film, the spear almost took his head off. And Cornell just went with it. He just turned around, grabbed the spear, and they just took it. But he's like, that spear almost took my head off.
That's crazy. But yeah, going back to what Audie said, it does, this film shows the humanity and the brutality of just anybody, I have to say that members of the tribe that was pursuing Cornel Wilde's character would stop at nothing to kill, and they even killed another member of their own group who wanted to go home, and the leader of the group speared him through. And they, at the beginning, when they had everybody captive, the other Africans that were part of the safari, they captured them and they killed them in, I would say, more heinous ways than the white guys of the group. Like, anybody can be bad, anybody could be good. no matter what race they are, basically.
Yep.
Yeah, and what's more interesting is I looked deeper into the film, and I guess it's based on a true story, except so it's actually the story of during the John Coulter. He was part of the Lewis and Clark expedition. He was like a trapper, and so him and his buddy went out to Montana to trap furs, and they were raided by Blackfoot Indians. So they killed John Coulter's friend, hacked him to pieces, and then they stripped Coulter, took his furs, and they gave him a 30-second head start. So he was stripped naked. They gave him a 30-second head start, and he outruns all the Indians, but like two, I think one or two, kills the one, takes his spear, hides in a beaver dam, and then I think it's about 11 or 12 days he travels 6 miles and makes it to a fort. So Cornell, I think, wanted to adapt that story, but I think there was tax problems and there was a lower budget, and so he researched Africa and then switched it to Africa and that time period. So I had no idea that it was actually based on a true story or about John Coulter.
About the dialogue, if it was like authentic African languages that they were speaking.
Yeah, it's I looked that up. I can't remember, but it's more of a minor language down there. They went to a certain village that the language wasn't really well known, and they filmed, exactly their language, but it wasn't Swahili or Zulu. It was another type of.
I had a translator. I had a translation utility going. They were actually saying, "Hey, you want to get pizza after this?" Because it was like they're not going to know. That's a joke. Okay, so.
But yeah, he did use African actors. I know, like, at least one of the guys his name's King Gampu. He was the leader of the warriors, and Morrison was his father. Ken did like I would say African American type James Bond meets Shaft type of thing later on. So he did his own lead in a film later, but most of the other actors in the film, I don't think, did anything really further than that.
I don't remember any of them doing that. There was in the UCL interview I listened to, one of the people said, were the tribes people able to watch themselves in the movie? And he's like, no, because like it was out in the middle of nowhere. He said the main actors, they would go to the theater and they would spend all their money watching themselves over and over and over again on the screen, like Ken Gampu and some of the other big actors. They would go watch themselves 5, 6, 7 times.
Well, were they paid decently?
I believe they were paid, since they were the higher actors.
Yeah. So absolutely. What's the most critical thing that you want people to know about watching this movie?
Well, there's a lot of great nature scenes, but like if you're easily worried about violence, then this movie has a lot of violence. And
oh God, yes.
Like 20 minutes, it shows you all the different ways that people can be killed.
Which,
like that, I watched it when I was like 6, and I was okay. So.
I mean, I would recommend like perhaps being a teenager, but it is beautifully shot in Africa. You get a lot of the gorgeous scenery. You get kind of that time period. I mean, people they'll probably harp on the movie for its violence or its authenticity, but I think Cornel Wilde, the director, really tried to make a kind of an adventure film with respect to Africa and kind of what was happening during that time period. I mean, he highly researched it, even though the story originally takes place in the 1800s. He researched the African tribes, the villages. He wanted to try to really respect their cultures and kind of make a movie that kind of an adventure film, but also paying respect to their customs and showing the different languages and the villages where they really lived, and all that part of Africa.
Yeah, and the shots of nature, like the the animals are like stalking each other, and so it correlates with what's happening.
Good observation there, Kat.
Yeah, with the human stalking of each
Yeah.
other.
Towards the end of the movie, he almost makes it to the fort, before he passes out. And just when he's about to meet his demise, the fort soldiers take out. We give away spoilers here. If you haven't seen this movie in 60 years, then where the hell you been? Sorry. Okay.
The only thing I would say, my critique would be like, that was a really long ways away that those guys were shooting from. I was like,
yeah.
binoculars to see these men, and somehow they shoot even further than they were from Cornel Wilde's character.
Yeah.
Like they're shooting those guys way over there.
And when he realizes that he is no longer the prey, he basically says, he waves goodbye to one of the other guys, and it's almost like a friendly bye, bon voyage. I just thought that was. I know it was like saying, all right, you play by your rules, I play by your rules, and fair is fair. So I know that was the message, but I just felt like it was almost like Judy Garland saying goodbye to Mickey Rooney at the end of one of the movies or something. It was just a little too
That's true.
Babes at Arms or whatever that Mickey Rooney movie is with them.
I remember we're totally taking a left turn here, but speaking of Mickey Rooney and Judy Garland, I watched a documentary on MGM, and who was it? Who was the mogul that ran MGM? Was it
Louis B. Mayer?
Yeah,
Louis B. Mayer.
That man was a tyrant. He worked those kid actors.
Oh yeah,
horribly. And the reason that Judy Garland became such a total addict was because they were pumping them with liquid cocaine back when they were children. And I saw they showed a couple of clips from one of the musicals they were in. And I mean, they would do the scene so many times that they literally had blood in their shoes from dancing so much. And their eyes, they were just so geeked out because they were so high from all the. It's incredible what they got away with.
No wonder they had so much energy.
Yeah. They just did a movie called Judy with Renee Zellweger, and in the opening, I haven't made it to the whole film yet, but in the opening 10 minutes, you have, I think it's supposed to be Louis B. Mayer, and he's threatening to fire Judy, and then he gives her some pills to pop, and you're just like, oh man, like just the hell that she went through.
Yeah, that's why you can't. People like to take cheap shots at Judy Garland, but no, the industry made her a mess. She wasn't a mess. The industry made her a mess.
For sure. Going back to the film, my favorite part is when he's with the little African girl that he rescues from slavery. Basically, her whole tribe is being, dragged into slavery by another tribe, and the guy looks Arab, the slave trader. But yeah, so he kills Cornel Wilde's character kills him and some of the other people that are attacking that tribe. And he saves the girl, and then the little girl saves him later on from drowning. And that was their interaction's very cute, and they're singing songs the whole way. And she finally decides.
You mean when he's pulled out of that body of water?
Yes.
Yeah.
That's supposed to be a girl?
Yeah. Hey, I actually thought. Well, I wasn't sure. I wasn't sure for a long time, but yeah, it's a girl.
Yeah, I did look it up. It's a girl. Yeah.
Okay. Well, good choice there.
I promise the next one I pick won't be a.
Well, yeah, I'm still recovering from the second movie. The Rock Hudson thing.
Hey, he gets away in the end of this one. He's alive.
Yeah, he's alive.
That is true.
Also, there's a quick comparison. I don't know if either of you have seen APOCALYPTO, Mel Gibson's film.
I have not, but I just recently found that in a thrift store, and I'm excited to watch that one.
Yeah, it also has a chase scene that's very similar to the arrows. I don't know if they have arrows. I do remember being in the theater and saying, "Hey, this is a lot like Naked Prey." the guy is a captive. I think it's the Incan, might be Mayans. I don't remember exactly. I haven't seen it in a long time, but yeah, their captive is set loose and they're trying to hunt him, and I think they're using a similar method of chasing him.
So how long did Cornel Wilde live? What year did he?
I think 80s is when he passed away.
Okay. Did he do anything notable after that?
He was a director still. I didn't even know he was a director for all these years of watching this movie. I didn't know he even directed it for some reason, because I always catch the towards the middle. But yeah, he was focusing his energies into directing after this. So I mean, I loved this film since I was little, and
This doesn't seem like the type of movie that would have run on, the Sunday matinee movie on, TV. Did this? Sounds familiar but I just don't recall ever watching it. I never watched a lot of African safari movies when I was a kid, anyway. So, but anyway, well, with a minute left in this segment, so I guess we'll wrap this up. But I'm glad we watched it, and so now we're going to get ready to discuss a comedy classic made 2 years after The Naked Prey.
Okay, from 1968, we're reviewing The Odd Couple. This is one of my favorite all-time movies, favorite all-time comedies from my, I consider Neil Simon the god of script comedy. He, is a genius that there's so many great hits. The Goodbye Girl, Sunshine Boys, The Out-of-Towners.
What's the Matthew Broderick movie he did? Biloxi Blues?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah, wasn't that Neil Simon too?
Yes.
I saw that in the theater. Loved it. Yeah.
Yeah, and Prisoner on Second Avenue, which is another one with Jack Lemmon. We have
Murder by Death.
The Cheap Detective.
Barefoot in the Park, I think.
Yeah. Come Blow Your Horn is one of his earliest ones with Frank Sinatra.
Barefoot in the Park, that's the Robert Redford movie?
Yes.
And
that's Neil Simon?
Yeah.
Yep.
Is it a typical Neil Simon type?
I would say so. The dialogue is very like him.
All right, I'll check it out. I always avoided it because I just thought it was just a boy meets girl kind of movie. I didn't realize it was a Neil Simon comedy. Okay, yeah. I'll check that out for sure.
And of course, we got California Suite and Plaza Suite, just tons of great hits. So, and Jack Lemmon, who stars as Felix Unger in The Odd Couple, was in several of those. So, just a whole bunch of comedy geniuses in this.
Now, since you're the expert, Kat, on this, was this Jack Lemmon's first pairing with Neil Simon? Was this his first pairing with Neil Simon comedies?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. It's my. He also. He wasn't in the original play from 1965. That was Walter Matthau.
That was Walter Matthau, and Art Carney played Jack Lemmon's part.
Art Carney?
Yeah, but I don't think they could get him for the film, if I remember correctly, or I don't know if he turned it down or they just couldn't get him, but Art Carney.
Yeah, and they tried a whole different bunch of people that they were possibly going to get, including Dick Van Dyke, just a whole bunch of different people. He might have worked.
They actually, because I listened to Gilbert Gottfried's podcast, and they had the sons of Walter Matthau and Jack Lemmon on, and they said at one point Frank Sinatra and Jackie Gleason were going to do it, and somebody went into the office and said, "Do you want to be responsible for ruining The Odd Couple? You'll get somebody else. Don't get Sinatra and Gleason."
Yeah, Frank Sinatra could do comedy, but he was going to be Felix. I cannot see that at all.
Yeah.
So I think he could, especially when he was younger. Don't forget, the man with the golden arm, that exposed a vulnerability in Frank Sinatra that just no one would have ever expected.
Yeah.
Uh,
I think he could do neurotic comedy, but I mean, seeing Jack Lemmon do it in this film, like, set like a high standard, I think, for me.
Well, Tony Randall, to me, was equally great in the TV version of The Odd Couple.
I was going to ask both of you if you'd seen that, because I have the whole series.
Oh, God, I grew up watching that stuff. Are you kidding? Yeah. One thing I loved about The Odd Couple film were the supporting characters. And two of them jumped out at me immediately because, as you know, I'm a big fan of the sitcom The Golden Girls, and two of those guys were one, Herb Elderman, who was also in the Cracking Up with Jerry Lewis. He was the taxi driver. And the little short bald guy, he was in an episode called I can't remember the name of the episode, but it was one of the all-time best episodes of The Golden Girls, where Dorothy Zbornak is in this purely sexual relationship with like the best lover she's ever had, and it was that short, tiny guy.
John Fiedler, I think is the guy.
Okay.
I think
very
you're right.
good, very good. So, well, the film. So basically, the film is Jack Lemmon is a very demoralized, emasculated man, and it ends with him having a sense of who he is and himself. And I'll let y'all talk about stuff in the middle.
So basically, Felix Unger and Oscar Madison are, well, I'm not sure if they're best friends, but they're pretty close friends.
In the movie, they say they're each other's best friends,
Oh.
which is so weird. It's like, if they're best friends, then how come he knew so little about Felix's, like?
Well, probably because it was just like, because I don't think Oscar Madison like had any like deep conversations with any of his friends, but he would probably consider them,
That's true.
Like they are just around to play poker and just do guy stuff, and he really kind of doesn't care too much about his friends because he's feeding them like weeks old stuff in his refrigerator. So, and
Yeah, and that's one of the things that actually both characters grow, because I know we're jumping to the end, but you see by the end of the movie that Felix actually had rubbed off on Oscar, because he corrects one guy when they refer to spaghetti. He says not spaghetti, it's linguine, and also he tells him, "Hey, this is my home here. Don't put your ashes on the floor." So you do see that, but it is true. You never know somebody until you live with them. That's definitely one thing this movie reveals, because I've had a lot of roommates from hell. All of them. I don't think, with the exception of my domestic partnerships, all of my just regular roommate situations, I think all but one were just, for various reasons, a train wreck.
I was going to ask Kat, do you know what inspired Neil Simon to write The Odd Couple? I tried to look it up, and I think he said that he got the idea from, I don't know if it's accurate, but he said like he moved in with Mel Brooks or something, or he moved in with somebody and got the idea.
No, I hadn't heard that. But I do know. I don't know where he got most of the ideas for his films, but I do recognize that a lot of the characters are similar in a way. A lot of them have anger and anxiety issues that they need to work through, for sure. So maybe it's taken from, just real life situations, and then he, just puts them into, creative characters. A lot of them definitely, because Neil Simon is Jewish, so a lot of them have, a New York type of attitude, and then, their ethnicity, is Jewish.
Another scene where Walter Matthau learns about Felix's sinus problem when they're in the restaurant. Do you guys think that was the impetus for the orgasm scene in When Harry Met Sally? Because there are a lot of parallels to that. A lot.
Yeah, I never thought of that, but you might have a good point there. Didn't Rob Reiner direct When Harry Met Sally?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Carl Reiner's son.
Also, Gene Saks was the director for this film. He was nominated for a Golden Globe for sure. And
Now, Gene Saks, he did a lot of other comedies too, didn't he?
Yeah, for sure. And the critiques at the time were just like, they kept a lot of the staging as in the play. So, I mean, I didn't notice it really, but yeah, I guess, they are correct about that, a lot of people like in scenes are positioned in a certain way and, as opposed to a round type of thing. It's very sitcom or stagey on that.
Like the scene where all of them are creeping up and listening to Felix in the restroom.
Yeah.
And they hear him cry in the restroom, and then how they all run back to the table, and then two of them realize they're in the wrong seat and they switch back. Those are little comedic directorial nuggets that I appreciate. Stuff like that. Almost reminds me in Don't Raise the Bridge, Lower the River, the big chase at the finale where Pam and the airline guy have on each other's hats, after they're done, the big yellow hat, So same year, by the way. I don't know, maybe that was a thing, but I love witty comedy. I love strong, witty dialogue, and Neil Simon was one of the masters of it.
Yeah, and it's very smart, and like even one of his later films, The Cheap Detective, some of it's like so stupid, but it's also smart. Like, how did he come up with this? But it's also like really silly. But and that's just the fun of it. Like, it's just fun no matter how silly it is, basically.
Yeah.
And another one of the supporting characters that I love in the film is the Pigeon Sisters. That's one of my favorite scenes. I love it when he leaves Felix alone with them, and he just blows the whole date, and then they're crying profusely, and then Walter Matthau comes in. Is everybody happy? And he's like, "What happened? I was gone for 5 minutes making drinks, and you ruined everything." Or he ruined everything by not going with him, later to finish the date.
And like one of them was crying. I haven't cried since I was 14 years old.
Yeah, the one of those sisters is another actress that I recognize from. I'm a big fan of the sitcom Frasier, and there was an episode where Frasier was running to be the head of the condo board because they were tired of the one that they had, and she was like this evil, mean tyrant. And I'm almost positive it was the one with the red hair, the sister with the red hair at the end, who lets everybody know that Felix is living with them.
And those two actresses, they paired up again for the Aristocrats as the two ducks, and they also paired up, I think, for the animated Robin Hood film.
Oh.
Which, I mean, they're good together. They've got good chemistry together.
Yeah.
So going back to the plot, it's basically. Felix gets divorced or is separated from, he's getting in the process of divorce. And basically his wife has had enough with him, and he goes off to commit suicide and in various ways, and each time he's just basically failing. And eventually he shows up at Oscar's house, where they're having, a poker night with the guys, and, they've been worrying about him because he hasn't shown up yet. And they basically figure out, hey, he's going to do something. We know him, he's going to do something, because they now have found out from his Felix's wife that they're separated. So they're like really afraid for him. And, those scenes where they're trying to get him not to commit suicide or think he's going to harm himself, or, really hilarious. When Felix is looking out the window and he asks, how high are we up or something? And, it's only 11 floors. It says 12, but it's only 11.
And then later in the movie, when he pisses him off, he's like, it's 12 floors, not 11.
Yeah. So basically, from there, Oscar takes pity on him, and they move in together and just make each other miserable for weeks. It seems like a lot longer probably, but I guess it was only a matter of weeks. And it doesn't take very long for Oscar to just completely go insane. My favorite part is my favorite line from the movie.
When he says, so in other words, you're saying you're throwing me out. No, those are not the words. Those are the words,
I feel like I'm going to make a shirt of this or something on one of my designs on Redbubble. But my favorite line is when Oscar and Felix are talking, and Oscar says, you left a little notes on my pillow. How many times do I have to tell you I do not like little notes on my pillow? You left me a thing that said, we're all out of cornflakes, F you. Took me 2 hours to figure out that FU means Felix Unger. Every single time.
I'm sure that got a huge laugh, especially at the time,
I still laugh every single time.
Oh, that's probably my favorite line in the whole movie. Yeah.
And the story is so successful that, it garnered 5 seasons with Tony Randall and Jack Klugman, and then it even inspired the sequel where Matthau and Lemmon reprised their roles for Odd Couple 2. What was that, 1998?
Yeah. 30 years later. Yeah.
Which, have either of you seen the second one?
I saw
a clip.
Yeah. It's good, but I don't know. It's not the same. I think they should have done it earlier.
Yeah.
A little bit earlier. It's not like, I think one of Jack Lemmon and Walter Matthau's, they had many pairings. They had at least 6. I think Grumpy Old Men is probably better.
God, yeah.
The sequel, it's pretty funny. And then several of their other films together, I would say are pretty hilarious.
Okay.
The Fortune Cookie, that's I would say my second favorite.
Okay. All right, so many movies to catch up on.
Yeah.
Okay.
One reason why we're doing this show.
Absolutely.
Another part is that I find hilarious is when they're arguing over kitchenware, and I forget what Oscar says, it's a spoon or something, and he's like, no, you dumb ignoramus, this is a ladle. You did not know this was a ladle.
Yep.
And they're throwing, and then Oscar gets pissed off and throws the plate of linguine or pasta on the wall.
They call it garbage.
It's just gonna sit there and get gooey, and he's like, Oscar is like, now it's garbage.
Now it's garbage.
Howdy, can you do a good Walter Matthau impression?
Not really. And I really should, because I've seen him in the King Creole movie that he did with Elvis, where he played a totally different type of character. He was a horrible person in the King Creole. I don't know. They used to come on Johnny Carson a lot, and they would have spelling contests. And he always takes his time. Not in a rush. I don't know, as a commercial. So, that was, actually, my favorite Walter Matthau things, I always loved it every time he came on Johnny Carson, because just the exchange between them. And they were very competitive spellers. They would give each other these really complicated words to spell. that was Walter Matthau's thing. So, uh,
I just think that Jack Lemmon and Walter Matthau are just very underrated, comedians. Like they might be not like, they're obviously
comedy actors. No, yeah, they're great comedy actors. Yeah.
but they're not given enough credit because they really brought to life a whole bunch of great films.
Yeah, and in this day and age, I mean, you mention it to people who are under, 30 and people don't even know who these guys are.
Well, let's not forget, I think it was the 90s when, I think this is back when I was still watching the Golden Globes. I think it was the Golden Globes or People's Choice. It was one of them. They won and some big award, and all of them came up to speak. Walter spoke, Jack Lemmon spoke, and I just remember that being like their big moment. And even Anne Margaret, the great Anne Margaret, spoke, and I'll never forget it because they were on the stage, for so long that music came on, let them know it's time to wrap it up, and Anne Margaret was just going on and on and on, and they cut her off. And the look on her face, I know somebody's head rolled when they went to commercial. You don't cut off Anne Margaret and live to tell the tale. I'll never forget that because someone had just died, and someone had just died, not George Burns, but somebody like that had just died, and that's when they cut her off when she mentioned it. but getting to what you were saying, that them not getting their due, I think that was like their moment when the world said, Jack Lemmon, Walter Matthau, you're all two of the greats.
Yeah.
So they had their moment,
What do you think about like this film compared to other comedy films of the time? Do you think it's a representative of that time?
It was original. And it was comedic without being sitcom-y and slapstick. It was obviously witty dialogue, but it was very convincing too. And it was just so original for the time. Two men living together who aren't Laurel and Hardy and Jerry Lewis, two ordinary men. So, and what I also liked was that there were no anti-gay inferences made to the Jack Lemmon character because of the fact that he knew what a ladle was and the difference between spaghetti and liquid. There was nothing like that, that suggested that he was not a heterosexual man, even though he was so neat and all that. That's because the temptation to do that back then, I'm sure, was really great, but they didn't go there.
Yeah, for sure. And then they even make like, referring to each other as their other spouses. They call each other by
Francis and Blanche.
Francis and Blanche, yeah.
All right.
Yeah. I think they also referred to each other as, basically married, or like, they're acting like they were married. Basically, like, obviously Felix would be the wife cleaning and, obsessing over footprints. That's another state of mind that's very funny. Like, I have feet and they make prints. Like, want me to climb across the cabinets?
And even when Walter Matthau is up to here with Jack Lemmon, Walter Matthau goes into the kitchen and he says, walk on the paper, I just waxed the floor.
You just did this, basically. You just saw it.
But yes, that's a movie that I think anybody would like. I don't care, what your economic status or background, social background is. It's just genuinely funny all around.
Did you like? Because I haven't seen the series as much. Like, do you think the film or do you like?
They were both outstanding.
Yeah, the show is really good, and I mean, the 2-hour movie is great, and then you have 5 seasons, I think, of The Odd Couple, and I think as the series progressed, they had a lot of guest stars on the series as well, and I mean they're all funny. The
When you
film.
visited me, Thad, we watched a few episodes.
Yeah.
When you visited me. Now here's something y'all might not know. There was actually a very short-lived reboot of the series in the early 80s that I remember seeing on TV. It was a black version of it with Ron Glass from Barney Miller, who was perfect to play a black Felix Unger. There was no better black actor to play him. And Damon Wilson from Sanford & Son played the Oscar character. And
I didn't hear about that one.
Yeah.
I know they recently,
I believe. And I remember watching it. My mom and my brother and I watched it. Even though it was good, I knew it wouldn't last. But it was good. But as far as the Tony Randall and Jack Klugman TV version, it really was on par with the movie. In fact, in some cases, probably better.
I would really strongly advise checking that out, Kat. It's really good.
Yeah.
They also did a reboot in, I think, a couple years ago with Matthew Perry from Friends.
Oh, that's right. Man, Matthew Perry has what? Did he deliberately make himself look like hell now, or did he do that for the character? Because he looks like holy hell now.
I'm not sure, but I think he played the Felix character, and I don't know who played Oscar in the.
No. Matthew Perry played the Oscar character.
Oh, did it? Okay. Who played Felix? I wonder. I forgot.
That I don't remember.
There was also a female version in like 2002, apparently. I don't know. It says they renamed them Florence Unger and Olive Madison. So, not sure who was in that one, but that was in 2002. I also just came across something that going back to what you said, that about what the story's origins were. It did say that Mel Brooks. It happened after he's claiming that the author of Mel Brooks's biography was claiming that the play came after Neil Simon was observing Mel Brooks in a separation from his first wife and living with the writer Speed Vogel for 3 months.
That's what I think I heard. Yeah.
Yeah, but then somebody else was saying that Neil Simon's brother, Danny, a television writer, he was claiming that, Adam Bernstein, I don't know who Adam Bernstein is, but he wrote that the idea from the play came from his divorce. So it might be just a thing of everybody's claiming, hey, this is inspired by me. I don't know.
Maybe Neil Simon just knew a gay couple in New York who didn't get along, and one was neat and one was messy. And he said, all right, let's run with this, so we'll make them divorced. Actually, I just looked up The Odd Couple with Matthew Perry. It was on for 3 seasons. I would have never guessed that. And the guy with Matthew Perry was Thomas Lennon. No idea who that is. Oh, Thomas Lennon. Okay, I've seen him on stuff on Comedy Central. I recognize him now. Yeah, he did a lot of stuff on Comedy Central. But, yeah, I think they should have got someone who was just as known as Matthew Perry. But Matthew Perry, man. I don't know if you ever saw it. Did you ever see it, guys? Did he not look like shit?
I did see the preview and stuff.
I think I saw the preview trailer.
His face looked really. I don't know. He looked like he was like living in a crack house for like a year, and then they gave him this sitcom. That's what it looked like. He looked terrible in it. Send your emails not to them. Send it to me. Okay.
The Matthew Perry fan club is coming after you after this.
All 4 of them? Okay. But
all right.
Folks, and it won't be the last. Hey, I can dish it out, but I can also take it. So if people want to make comments in the comment section about me, as long as it's accurate and funny, I'll laugh with you. Now, if you say something stupid, then I'll make you look dumb, like that other schmuck who went on our Jerry Lewis thing and had the audacity to say he could talk circles about Jerry Lewis around us. I didn't realize that discussing film was a competition. I didn't realize that we were like in the podcast Olympics, and we were going to go for the gold medal in that, and he's like Russia and he's going to win the gold. I didn't realize that. I'm so sorry, but we'll train better next time, whoever you are.
I guess. I don't know. I was like, we're just discussing film. This is not.
And I love what you said, Kat. You said, before I block you.
Yeah. I was extremely angry.
Yes.
You just asked, the guy literally asked me for advice, like, on book recommendations, like, a couple of months ago. So I was like, I don't think you know everything there is to know. Like,
yeah. Yeah. So, we are just fans discussing it because we're keeping Jerry's memory alive, and that's why we started off this with a reading dialogue from the Nutty Professor. Jerry Lewis will probably be mentioned in every single one of these podcasts that we do. I'm just,
and we even have more films coming up with Lewis that we're going to be discussing.
Yes, and we're not keeping our promise. We were supposed to discuss one of your short films, Thad, and I have it up. I've got the link, so we need to. Which one do you want us to do?
The latest one I did, the Messenger.
The Messenger, okay.
So with 4 minutes left, what would be our closing remarks for the two films?
Well, I mean, I would definitely recommend The Odd Couple to anybody. No matter, like, as an introduction even to classic film, classic comedy.
Yeah.
I mean, it's cinematography wise, it's traditional, like, it's, not anything special.
Here's what I was wondering. It seems like there are continuity errors in, like, even the most celebrated films. Are there any noted continuity errors in that film?
Not
or Naked Prey? Or Naked Prey?
I think not. If there is, probably very minimum.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I for the Naked Prey, I would just say it was just that ending that was kind of unbelievable.
Yeah. I noticed that too. I said, man, those supposed to be some super powerful bullets there,
Yeah. But yeah, there's not really a connection between either film, I would say.
One's a thriller and one's a comedy.
Yeah, I mean, there's some moments of, fun in the Naked Prey. It's not totally dark and gloomy. And
now, you know what? There's been a gazillion sequels and remakes of The Odd Couple, but no remakes of The Naked Prey, huh?
No. Well, I mean, as I said, I don't think some of that they would have to, PC it up.
I wish they made it back in the 90s and Brad Pitt could have played it for obvious reasons.
Could be, yeah. I mean, I think they would have to change probably some stuff. But I mean, I think, Cornel Wilde's character is pretty, fair in comparison to, like, the other white guys in the film, basically.
Yeah.
He's more considerate of, the tribe's feelings and, the natives.
Oh, well, and I noticed, what was it about his character that made him so capable of taking out all those tribal people?
I mean, I think he was a guide. He knew the land. I mean, he's in shape, and he probably knew a few things coming in and, survival things. But I mean, the other guys clearly were not in shape. So it's luckily they didn't choose them because they would not have made it.
Yeah.
The other guys.
That is true. Yeah, they definitely found the scrawniest Africans there because Africans actually are pretty fit too, but not those guys. So, okay.
I thought they were.
We wrap it up having a minute left.
They were lean, but they weren't, like, muscular.
That's true.
Well, I guess now we should be hearing the theme music in the background now, signaling that it's time for us to wrap up another edition of the Total Film Critic podcast.
And check out, if you want some good Naked Prey, good thriller, and The Odd Couple, great comedy. And also check out Modern Retro Radio, a plug for my dear friend and co-host. And I want to thank both of you.
And let me thank Kat, who's the latest addition to Modern Retro Radio, who's a production assistant. She's an air talent. We do Friday night DJ shifts with her, and she always gets big numbers. She has a strong support system, and she's really coming into her own. She's becoming a very vital asset to Modern Retro Radio.
Hello out there, you movie lovers. We hope you've enjoyed listening to this edition of the Total Film Critic Podcast. Please join us next time, where our two films will be Anti-Mame from 1958 and The Hebrew Hammer from 2003. Please check us out and tune in next time.